How to Get Thicker and Shinier Hair by Eric Berg. I'm actually curious to see this because Eric Berg actually is very often right on the money when it comes to these things, and he does tend to prioritize a natural approach, which is good, and I've learned quite a bit from him, so let's see what he has to say on this one.
Superfood for your hair. There's going to be 4 foods we're going to cover. The 4th one's going to be the most important one if you want to get your hair back.
That's interesting. The title is titled How to Get Thicker and Shinier Hair, but he's going to prioritize which foods to consume, which is good. That's the right approach. A lot of people wonder about, oh, but what should I do for hair care or whatever? But they don't understand that your hair is built out of the excess nutrition that you consume, because due to the hierarchy of nutritional allocation, only a certain portion of your nutrients are delivered to the hair follicles, because the rest goes to your organs, to your muscles, to basically everything in your body that's more important than your hair. And in order to really nourish your hair, for it to grow thick, for it to grow strong, for it to grow healthy, for it to grow fast, you need to supercharge it with the correct nutrition in excess in order to fuel that hair growth. And if you actually combine that with blood flow increasing strategies to supercharge locally that excess of nutrition, then your hair will grow a lot faster, a lot stronger. It's that simple.
Start with number 1 first. Bamboo shoots. Now, you're probably saying, bamboo shoots, like you can eat that? Yes, they have different forms. You
Never
can
heard
get
of
it canned,
this.
you can buy it online. Bamboo shoots not only are very high in potassium and the trace minerals, they are very high in something called silica. Silica is essential to build up the hair protein. Silica can make your hair.
Yeah, silica is one of the most important minerals for your hair. However, I don't know how much you would get from bamboo shoots, honestly. I need to look this up. It's not something that I have personally investigated, because I get my silica from other sources. I prefer getting it from ionic liquid sources. If you get ionic silica, you can actually get, like, from half a teaspoon, you can get 300 milligrams of silica, which is a lot, right? And you can put that in hair mask, you can consume it, right? That's going to fuel hair growth, that's going to fuel nail growth. Silica is very good. But yeah, I mean, maybe if you can get it from bamboo shoots, again, it's not something that I've looked into, but yeah, possible.
Hair strong, elastic. It can prevent it from breaking. It gets rid of the brittleness in hair, but also it helps your skin too. It's great for wrinkles. It's even good for your joints. It can help.
Many of the nutrients that are good for your hair are also good for your skin, because in order for something to be good for your scalp, it has to be good for your skin, and well, your hair grows out of your scalp, right?
Wild caught salmon. Now, of course, salmon is loaded with nutrition, great protein, but salmon is known for its high levels of omega-3 fatty acids.
Yeah, you should consume salmon every day. If you have access to wild-caught salmon and you can afford it, you should literally consume it every day. It's one of the healthiest things on earth by far. Extremely good for your hair. And yeah, the omega-3 fatty acids need to be maximized all the way through. Very important.
The other cool thing about wild-caught salmon is that it's loaded with vitamin.
Well, more so EPA and DHA, right? These are the main ones. There are also other omega-3s that exist, but they're not nearly as important or effective.
D3. Nearly every single problem with hair loss can be improved with vitamin D3, especially part of the root of the hair where you have this follicle. Vitamin D controls that whole environment. It actually can activate dormant hair follicle stem cells. This will increase.
This is actually true because, again, vitamin D synthesized by sunlight, I actually don't believe he's right. If he's talking about vitamin D supplementation, that's not accurate, because in order for those follicular stem cells to actually be reawakened, it has to be done through an increase in mitochondrial function. How do you get that? Well, you get sunlight on your scalp, right? If you wear a hat during summer and you don't actually allow your scalp to intake the sunlight, you are actually damaging your hair follicles. That actually contributes to hair loss, right? You need to shine as much sunlight as possible on your scalp. That's going to improve the mitochondrial function in all of your follicular cells, and in some cases it can do that to the extent to actually reawaken dormant cells, right? That is very possible. But again, vitamin D supplements are not going to do that for you. Not even vitamin D from cod liver oil is going to do that for you. It's only through sunlight, right? Like, I know Eric Berg does sell vitamin D supplements, right? So he's a bit biased, but no. You should be sun-maxing, and ideally during the northern winter, you should always live towards the equator. That is like the most optimal thing you can do.
the density of your hair. So sometimes people will have thinning of the hair. This is what they need to consume more of. Let's move to number 3,
Not
egg
consume.
yolks. What's in an egg yolk? Egg yolks are loaded with something called biotin, and people take biotin to help their hair. It's a necessary.
Biotin is overrated. You get more than enough from eggs, and deficiencies are basically impossible. Anything above what you would get from like what, 6, 7, 8 eggs, you piss it out right away. It's not something that you can really mega dose and get many benefits, right? Every single mineral that I talk about, you know, iron, copper, iodine, sulfur, silica, selenium, all of these are more important individually than biotin. It's an extremely, extremely overrated thing that has been used for marketing. If you're gonna supplement anything, it shouldn't be biotin. But yeah, eggs contain more than enough, and you can actually access much more of it if you wash your hair with them, right?
Thing. So if you don't have enough biotin, you can't even make keratin. Keratin makes up the hair, improving the shaft of the hair and make sure that it's strong so you don't have this thinning hair that is falling out. If
you want to make keratin, you need collagen and you need a lot of protein. You need a high protein diet that also contains a lot of collagen. If you can't get collagen from like bone broth, from like animal skins, if you can't eat certain raw animals which contain collagen, then you can supplement certain powders as long as it comes from a high quality source. But yeah, these things are much more important for keratin synthesis than biotin.
Fragile and weak, and it can break easily. On top of that, egg yolks have all the fat soluble nutrients, which are really important to support hair growth and the structure of the hair itself. The other important thing about
actually, the ideal hair maxing diet that I recommend is a shit ton of eggs, like 12 eggs a day, pretty much, right? And this can also double for things such as fitness goals. That's going to increase your testosterone by a shit ton. You're going to wake up with a fucking Eiffel Tower in your pants every day. That's just what happens when you consume a lot of eggs. But yeah.
The egg yolk it's loaded with cholesterol. Now, you might think, that's a bad thing. No. Cholesterol is the precursor for all of the key hormones that you need for your hair. If those are not correctly produced.
Yeah, testosterone actually improves hair growth. That's what a lot of people don't understand. Is that if you don't have scalp inflammation, which causes the mobilization of DHT to the scalp and causes scalp tightness, which leads to hair loss, what happens is when your testosterone increases, it actually fuels hair growth, right? A lot of normies with a very, very low understanding of hair think that testosterone causes hair loss, but that's completely and utterly impossible. If you're very, very low testosterone as a man and you don't have the estrogen to compensate for it, right? Because that's another thing. Obviously, if you transition from male to female, then you replace the testosterone with the estrogen, then that's obviously gonna boost your hair growth. But if you don't have any of these two hormones, if you're just hypogonadal, you are actually more at risk of losing your hair and you're not going to grow as good of hair as you can. Whereas if you don't have scalp inflammation, if you actually took all the precautions necessary and you have very high testosterone levels, that is going to fuel your hair growth significantly.
Reduced or regulated in the right amounts because you don't have enough cholesterol, that can affect the hair.
Also, as a side note, there's a reason why long hair, long, beautiful, thick, shiny hair in men in a multitude of indigenous tribes is considered to be a sign of virility, of strength, of high testosterone, right? It's because those people intuitively understood those connections, just like these indigenous tribes understand many things that have been proven by science to be true. It's just that modern slaves just don't see it this way.
The hair also, it'll make it shiny, give it that luster, help strengthen the actual shaft of the hair as well. Plus, eggs are loaded with sulfur. Sulfur can also help the scalp of the hair, and that is kind of like the soil.
However, you need to understand that sulfur comes from protein. If you consume a high enough protein diet, you can get all of your sulfur from that. You don't need to get it from garlic. You don't need to get it from eggs as a byproduct. Of course, it's good to get it from eggs, right? But at the end of the day, sulfur comes from protein content in animal foods. And if you get enough of that, then you're completely fine, right? But yeah, very, very important mineral to maximize, but it's very easy because it just comes from protein anyways.
For the hair to grow into. And then, of course, egg yolks also have vitamin D, which I've already talked about. Now let's get to number 4.
Dietary vitamin D, again, is kind of good, but it's completely overshadowed by actually getting it from the sun and having it synthesized in the skin, right? Because vitamin D is synthesized by a derivative of cholesterol in the skin. So when So when it comes to the scalp, it is way, way better to get from the sun, right? Like for multiple different reasons, but also if you consume a high cholesterol diet, then you actually get more vitamin D per amount of sun that you receive because more actually gets converted, right? So you should combine egg maxing with sun maxing ideally. And this is true for both hair growth, for your skin, for testosterone levels. All of these things are connected.
4, which is the most important food that you could possibly eat for hair growth and other benefits of your hair. And this is grass-fed liver. Now, you can do beef liver, lamb liver, but if you don't like...
That is very high on the list, yeah.
Like liver, you can get these in capsules, or if you can find a good recipe, cook them with onions. The absolute most...
Well, why the fuck would you get liver in capsules full of petrochemicals? And by the way, I'm not against supplementation, because if the supplementation outweighs the potential negatives of supplementing, then you should do it, right? Certain supplements are actually worth consuming if they're from a high quality source. But liver, that's also why I think that supplementing copper is completely and utterly retarded. Like, why would you ever supplement copper when you can just get a mega dose of it from liver every single time? And then you eat a high zinc diet and you have both balanced at a high level. And as a result, your hair will never go gray and it will grow as fast as it possibly can if you got other factors under control as well, right?
Concentrated, nutrient-dense food that you could possibly consume. It has virtually every single nutrient in very high amounts, super high amounts.
It doesn't contain super high amounts of every nutrient, but it is dense in like a lot of them. Yeah, very, very important.
Amounts of iron. Iron is necessary to help transport oxygen to your scalp. The most common cause of hair shedding is an iron deficiency. There's 2 ways to get an iron.
Yes, but a common cause of hair shedding is also an iron overload. People don't really struggle with iron deficiencies. If you're eating meat, if you're eating half a kilo or even a kilo of fucking red meat a day, you're not iron deficient, right? And getting it from liver, I mean, that's fine, right? You should eat liver anyways, mainly for the copper, mainly for the vitamin A. Huge, huge, huge. But at the end of the day, when it comes to iron, it's extremely easy to get as long as you eat animal products, right? So that's not that much of an issue. And you should actually be worried of iron overload. You should make sure to balance things so that instead of consuming way too much red meat, which would put you in iron toxicity, you include some fish, you include some white-caught salmon, you include some eggs, which don't contain as much iron, right? That's why a lot of people who go on red meat only diets actually struggle, is because they often overload on iron, right? That is one of the main issues.
Iron deficiency in your blood. Number 1 is to be deficient in iron, which beef liver can satisfy really quickly. But also if you're deficient in copper, that won't allow the iron to work correctly in the red blood cell to feed the hair oxygen. Well, guess what? Beef liver is loaded with copper as well. And not just copper, zinc in the right ratios. And zinc is very, very important in preventing the more powerful form of testosterone called DHT that has a tendency to burn out your hair and cause hair loss.
Yeah, no, so it is true that zinc does inhibit the conversion from testosterone to DHT, which is fine, but again, I don't think Eric Berg understands that like DHT by itself, levels of DHT don't matter when it comes to hair loss, unless it's like an excessive super physiological amount that is typically gotten from drugs, which are not even DHT, they're DHT derivatives, right? But it's already been shown that like they've compared a bunch of people with baldness, without baldness, and the amount of DHT was inconsequential. The amount of blood, serum DHT, was inconsequential to whether somebody was losing hair or not, right? So it's not about the amount. It's about whether, one, you have scalp inflammation, which causes its mobilization to the area to begin with. And the second thing is going to be, well, your genetic sensitivity to the DHT being mobilized to your scalp, right? That's the only thing. But yeah, it's true. Technically, zinc does inhibit DHT a little bit, but that's not our main concern when it comes to reversing hair loss naturally. The whole DHT theory is a complete farce.
Zinc can help prevent that. Zinc also is necessary in the formation of creating hair and protein synthesis, especially for your hair. Beef liver is loaded with folate and B12 and
but yeah, as a side note, zinc is the most important mineral for your hair. It's the most important mineral for testosterone. It is, if there's one thing you should never be deficient in, it's zinc. It's really good for your skin too. Like, there's just certain nutrients, certain minerals, certain vitamins that are very, very high return on investment when it comes to looks maxing, right? That are good for hair, testosterone, feeling good, looking good, skin, etc., right? And that can actually increase your levels of dimorphism, especially through puberty. And zinc is 100% basically at the top of the list, if we don't count things like, cholesterol, which obviously are key.
Copper help reduce the graying effect of your hair, just as an FYI.
Very, very
of course,
important,
the folate and the B12 are in the...
That is one of the things that I talk about, yeah. You need to get proper copper amounts, if not high doses. You should get about 7 to 7.5 milligrams of copper a day, which you can achieve by consuming 50 grams of beef liver a day, which is what I recommend. And essentially that, plus consuming chlorophyll, plus getting off shampoo completely, egg washing, whatever. But essentially, if you combine that with all of the other things that I talk about, your hair is actually never going to go gray. Straight up. Like, you will maintain your natural hair color in your 50s, in your 60s, maybe even in your 70s. You are going to be shielded from rapid physical degeneration, because we degenerate a lot faster than we should. And our hair is merely a reflection of that, right? If you actually get those nutrients properly, your hair will not go gray for a very long time, and you won't need to dye it like all of these tryhards, Which, by the way, hair dye destroys your hair completely and utterly and causes hair loss because of the acute toxicity and inflammation that it causes in the scalp, which causes the mobilization of a DHT as a counter reaction. Again, all of these things are linked. People just don't want to look at it in a holistic way. It's like, oh, is it DHT? Is it scalp inflammation? Is it scalp tightness? Bro, all these things are connected. It's all a chain of command. You can stop the chain of command with finasteride, with dutasteride, but you can also stop it by reducing scalp inflammation, reducing scalp tension. There are many pathways that you can stack in order to reverse hair loss naturally, but yeah, people don't get it, that it's more complex than just like a single quick fix,
Best form available. The iron in beef liver is a heme type iron. It's so much more bioavailable.
That's the only type of iron you should consume. Anything that isn't heme iron can hardly be qualified as iron. You barely can absorb it. It doesn't work as well in the body. Any kind of iron that you get from plants is completely and utterly worthless. That's why when vegans say, oh, but I can meet my nutritional requirements. Bro, you get vitamin K1 instead of vitamin K2. What the fuck is that? Completely worthless. You get the worthless kind of iron instead of heme iron. Again, completely worthless. Even if on paper you think it's the same. You think you get the same amount of protein as me, but your protein is missing like half of the amino acids that work synergistically to build the body. Like, what are you talking about? Never, ever listen to vegans when they tell you that, oh, but my diet is fine because I get this and I get this from soy, from all these sources. Yeah, but by the way, that shit is estrogenic as hell. Like, dude, 1 gram of protein is not equal 1 gram of protein. 1 milligram of iron is not equal 1 milligram of iron. Plant foods synthesize nutrients a lot differently than animal foods, and this is the ultimate proof that we are not herbivores. We're actually meant to consume animal products, because those nutrients from animal sources are much more bioavailable to us humans. And that you cannot debate. That isn't something that you can pull up a study to debate, right? Like, the evidence clearly shows that. Even though I'm not the most evidence-based guys in the world, I think it's a huge fallacy and a trap to rely on the religion of scientism to come to your conclusions. At the end of the day, even the study slaves agree on the idea that many different nutrients that you get from animal products are way more bioavailable than if you get them from plant form. And even if it is the same, guess what? Plant products, especially vegetables, nuts, grains, contain phytic acid, contain lectins, contain oxalates. All those things bind to the minerals and prevent their absorption, right? So even if we are to pretend that, oh, but it's actually the same nutrients, you're still not getting as much in your system because of the plant toxins that are binding to the supposed good nutrients that you're supposed to get from plants. But yeah, anyways.
Than any iron you can get from plants or supplements. And on top of that, beef liver is loaded with the most bioavailable form of vitamin A, not the precursor beta carotene, but the active form of vitamin A called retinol. And vitamin A is essential for allowing vitamin D.
Yeah, there's no plant that actually contains vitamin A. Again, that's fairly elementary knowledge, right? However, beta carotene is pretty good to consume since it can act as an anti-inflammatory in the skin, independent of vitamin A conversion. And this can actually reduce acne in a lot of people. Megadosing beta carotene can actually be very, very helpful for your skin more so. It's not as relevant to hair maxing, although it can be because it reduces scalp oxidative stress and whatever, but there's a bunch of other things that do that as well.
To work because vitamin D is also in liver, and we know the importance of vitamin D in hair growth through helping regulate sebum, which is the oil on the gland, to make your hair look very, very healthy and to prevent this drying out effect of your hair. And we also have another thing in liver called biotin. I've already talked about that. Biotin will help increase the structure of the hair, the shaft, so your hair becomes thicker, stronger, more elastic, fuller look, as well as the growth of hair itself. And getting biotin from grass-fed liver is way better than getting it from a supplement. If you had an antibiotic and then all of a sudden your hair starts becoming a problem, then you need more biotin, or actually you need more grass-fed liver. Anyway, I wanted to keep this video.
Actually, no, if you had an antibiotic, you need to consume kefir in order to rebuild your gut microbiome, because it's been completely and utterly trashed by the antibiotics, which destroy the good bacteria all across your body. That's why after getting antibiotics, you feel like shit. You get sluggish. You actually, a lot of the time, get sicker in a lot of ways. And yeah, if you had antibiotics, that's a very, very bad attack against your system, because there's bacteria all over your body that are responsible for a bunch of processes which get killed when you consume antibiotics. But all of it starts with your gut, and as you produce bacteria in the gut, then that bacteria can also help with a bunch of other things in your body. So you need to consume kefir, and while you consume kefir, you need to avoid foods that are not as easy to digest. So you should probably focus more on fish, fatty fish. You should focus more on things like eggs. And if you want to consume red meat, you should consume it raw, because cooked, while it can work, I'm not one of those people that are going to tell you, oh yeah, eat raw meat is the only way to go, right? I'm trying to help everyone. I'm trying to help as many people as possible. I know some people are just not going to do that. I do believe in it, but that's fine. If you want to eat cooked meat, that's up to you. However, when you're rebuilding your gut microbiome after consuming antibiotics, which by the way, your gut microbiome is hugely, hugely important to be healthy, in order to actually keep your hair, in order to have healthy skin, in order for your entire body to work correctly, right? Like, it doesn't matter if you stop using shampoo, wash with raw eggs, and, you know, do derma stamping and all this stuff, if your gut health is trash, right? We need to be working synergistically across every single process of our bodies. So yeah, you want to do that. So yeah, consume kefir, consume easily digestible animal foods. You can consume some fruit as well, although I would recommend against it when rebuilding your gut, because what happens with glucose is that it actually feeds the bad bacteria in your gut, which counteracts the good bacteria, whereas if you only consume animal fat, that actually doesn't feed the bad bacteria, that actually doesn't lead to this imbalance. It supports positive bacterial growth in your gut, which in turn is going to allow you to absorb much more nutrition out of the food that you consume. A lot of people think that they're consuming X amount of protein, X amount of zinc, X amount of that. Yeah, no, you're actually not. If your gut microbiome is trash, if you didn't actually replenish your gut microbiome because it got destroyed by shit foods, bad lifestyle choices, antibiotics, etc., then any food that you consume is not going to be absorbed as good as it could if you had a healthy gut microbiome. It's that simple. And on top of that, good gut microbiome leads to reduction in inflammation, which also affects scalp inflammation. So yeah, you see how everything is connected. But yeah, good video overall. Definitely sparked a lot of interesting things to talk about. Yeah, let me know if you enjoyed this video and if it helped answer a bunch of questions that you might have. And if you made it this far, I really appreciate you. And as always, keep ascending.